Alright everybody, welcome back to another top 10 commander cards video. This is another Redux video, going over 2 color combinations, and we're probably going to follow this up with 3 colors. It just gets harder and harder. And I thought Orzhov would be easier, but I was surprised to see that while there are a lot of good Orzhov cards, wasn't quite as easy to do a top 10 as I thought it would be. But anyway, here, let's start it off with number 10, and it's a newer card, Lysa, Shroud of Dusk. Probably one of the more creative Orzhov commander options, and that's really why she's on here. You can get around the pain of having to pay the commander tax in mana by paying it in life. So for every 2 mana in the tax, you would just pay 2 life instead, which is 1,000 times better because in these colors you can have nothing but life gain. But once she's out there, she's very similar to Kambal Console of Allocation, but instead of non-creature stuff, it's every spell. So whenever a player plays a spell, they're going to lose 2 life. It does count you as well, but as I just said, in these colors you have a ton of access to life gain. Probably going to be one of the more difficult commanders to have to play around with and maybe even play yourself, because seeing as this counts for every spell, it's harder to play around, making you likely public enemy number 1, the most hated player at the table. Still a pretty cool option though, but number 9 is Kambal Console of Allocation. Yes, the ability is not going to be quite that much of a shutdown, but I still like it a little bit better. And who knows, over time maybe Lysa will overtake him, but Kambal does offer you life gain while also draining your opponents. It's only for non-creature spells, so you're not going to drain them over everything, and they can just play around that by only playing creature stuff. But still, you throw this out there, it's going to have a very similar impact. Maybe not quite the commander option, but I still think as one of the 99, Kambal's just a little bit better right now. And then number 8, we have Corpse Knight. Now, Corpse Knight from M20 is probably one of the better uncommons that we've had in a long time. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses a life. This kind of ability is really powerful because it affects all of your opponents. And just like with cards like Blood Artist, it's super easy to combo with. Anything that can get you several ETBs or infinite ETBs is likely going to win you the game. It's a super cheap creature, it's only 2 mana, also underrated for Knight Tribal, Zombie Tribal, just a pretty sweet creature all around. And then number 7, we have Teysa Orzhov Scion. Now, the Teysas are some of the best commander options ever, and you can't really go wrong here. I think Teysa Orzhov Scion is one of the better engines on a commander too, because you do have a way to go infinite, but even if you don't, you still have a way to remove consistently. You get exiling removal if you sacrifice 3 white creatures. The engine comes from whenever a black creature dies, you get a 1/1 white spirit creature token. So you do have the combos, you do have the way to go infinite with this. Just make all of your creatures black. There's just so much you can do. You could do token strategies, you can have graveyard strategies, aristocrat strategies. Very versatile commander option, and that's why I love her. And then number 6, we have Debt to the Deathless. This is quite possibly the best win con in Orzhov colors because it's exactly like Exsanguinate. However, if you have more mana, it's better because you'll get more for X. Since it's twice X, you get more value out of it. Mana's a little bit different, but it pretty much does the same thing. And then number 5, we get Dispark. Now, black and white is really good at removal. Not only do the commander options have some kind of removal built in, but the instant speed targeted removal is consistently good. For just 2 mana instant speed, you can exile a target permanent with converted mana cost 4 or greater. And that's the only condition, that it has to be a permanent 4 or greater. Well, okay, that's just about every card you would have a problem with anyway. I mean, you can't really beat the value with what you get here in removal. You get the best kind of removal too. You get exiling removal, so you can deal with something permanently. This is one of the reasons why I like black and white the most, is that you don't really have to worry about dealing with problems again. Because once you've dealt with it with something like a Dispark, that's about it. Problem solved for only 2 mana. And then number 4, we have Merciless Eviction. Again, exiling removal is fantastic. Merciless Eviction. If there's a weakness to black and white, is that we really don't have another good black and white board wipe. And that might be intentional, but for now, Merciless Eviction. You get to deal with whatever permanent type is causing you the most problems. So you can exile either all artifacts, all creatures, all enchantments, or all planeswalkers. I think you'll notice too that a lot of the best removal in the format came during and after the Return to Ravnica block, so you had a lot of ways of dealing with planeswalkers or just any kind of permanent type. That makes removal so much better because for a while planeswalkers have always been difficult to deal with. If you could just pick a mode and deal with all of them for 6 mana, that's still a pretty good deal. And then number 3 we have Cruel Celebrant. Very similar to Zulaport Cutthroat, but it also does count planeswalkers you control. However unlikely that is to be a big deal, it's still just another black and white Zulaport Cutthroat, which a big weakness of playing Commander is how inconsistent your decks can be at times. When you really need the same card, instead of having several copies of the same card, you just get cards that do the same thing. Cruel Celebrant is a Zulaport Cutthroat for people that want another Zulaport Cutthroat in their decks. Everything I like about Zulaport is true for Cruel Celebrant, and I've gone over that card several times. Blood Artist is still preferable in my opinion because you can count all of your opponent's creatures and then just be more selective of who loses life. But without a doubt, this is still devastating. If you have the combos, you're still going to win with Cruel Celebrant in the same way you would with a Blood Artist or a Zulaport Cutthroat. And then number 2, we have probably my pick for the best commander option in Orzhov, and that is Teysa Karlov. Teysa Karlov is also very combo friendly, kind of like with Teysa Orzhov Scion, but it's even easier because you're just doubling the death triggers, and since this is like the only card that can do that, every time a creature dying would trigger something, whether it's that creature's death trigger or the death trigger from another card, you're getting twice the triggers. Pair this up with an Ashnod's Altar or a Phyrexian Altar, and you have several ways of going infinite. You keep getting the death triggers, you can keep your turn going. Not only is it really powerful for that reason, but if you want to be more versatile, you have another Teysa here that can go in several different directions. Your tokens get some pretty good keywords there in Vigilance and Lifelink. So if you want to make a token strategy that focuses on death triggers, she's also a pretty good commander. And oh yeah, the death trigger that you get off of the old Teysa, where you get a 1/1 white spirit, that gets doubled with this Teysa. She's just better because she can make literally any other card you play in your deck better. You can't really say that for many other commander options. Alright, so before I go on to number 1, I want to talk about some honorable mentions. We have Tymna the Weaver, pretty well-known commander option, but I feel like it's not so much about what Tymna can do, as it is just drawing more cards in a competitive EDH deck. We also have Karlov of the Ghost Council, another pretty sweet commander option, similar to Ailey, Eternal Pilgrim. You get some pretty good removal on those commander options. We have Etherios, God of Passage, very strong commander option where you can pressure your opponents to give you cards back, and if they don't give you the cards you want back, they're gonna have to lose 3 life. Alright, so number 1 is Anguished Unmaking. Still one of the best cards in the whole game. Utter End is 1 mana more, but I think for the cost of losing 3 life, you definitely don't want to have to pay 4 mana for this kind of spell. It's almost always relevant, the difference between saving up 3 mana on your turn or saving 4 mana, but you get to exile any non-land permanent. Whatever's causing you the most problems, you can pretty much exile it. The only thing it can't deal with is a good land, but oh no, your insanely powerful removal spell will only be able to deal with 99% of the things that you're worried about anyway. Anguished Unmaking is just premium removal. Black and white has the best removal easily. So when you offer for only 3 mana a way to deal with any problem, you're going to see it as an auto-include in every deck. Every black and white deck that can play it is going to play it. But anyway guys, that's it for the video. Let me know what you think about the top 10 best Orzhov commander cards in the format. Void here signing off. See you all next time.